Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and today for our Mindset Motivation Monday, we are going to be reading from Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret, Chapter 1. I am going back to my roots. I'm going to talk about the ways that you can direct your focus in the direction that you want to, that you can continue to return to only the things that you want to feel without creating judgment for yourself and without being frustrated or suppressing the emotions and the thoughts that come up. A quick reminder that we actually do not choose our thoughts. They just pop into your mind, and it's completely normal, no matter the state that you're in, to have some thoughts and feelings bubble up that maybe are not aligned with the person that you want to be. Even when you're in a really good mood, your vibration is high, and you feel like you're connecting in the way that you need to, those things can still come up. And you don't choose those thoughts, you don't choose those feelings, but you definitely make a choice in what you're going to do with them. So join me today as we read Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret, Chapter 1. Happy Monday, and thank you for joining me today. As you heard in the intro, we are going to go ahead and talk about one of my favorites today and go back a little bit to the roots and discuss Neville Goddard's Chapter 1 of Feeling is the Secret. I've been working on a little bit of a project lately, and it has had me reading this chapter over and over. And of course, Feeling is the Secret is actually the first Neville Goddard book that I ever started reading. And to be perfectly transparent, it was as if I was reading something in another language. It was making that little sense to me. I distinctly remember putting the book down and just thinking, this makes no sense. I have no idea why people online are talking about this guy like he's got this really great message to share, when I seriously cannot understand a word that he put in his book. And I'm an avid reader, so I was kind of surprised at how much I struggled to read and understand and comprehend his message. But I continued to go back to it. There was something that just drew me repeatedly back to his message. And I'm really happy that I was, because within time, I was able to start figuring out how to read and comprehend what he was sharing. One of the ways that worked really well for me, and if you're struggling to understand what he shares and read his books or his lectures and actually comprehend what the message is, I would read it and then listen to it. There's a website that I'll link below. It's a fantastic website that has all of his books listed that you can read them for free and listen to them for free. And so I would read a chapter and then listen to the chapter and then usually go back and read the chapter again. And it was like an amazing light bulb was going off for me. Being able to follow that process and actually hear somebody read it and read it myself really made the messages sit a little bit deeper. And as I've been working on my special project and going back to Feeling is the Secret, which is one of his best books, I believe. It's very simple in its message. It's very direct in its message. It's not a very long book. It's a pretty easy read once you're able to comprehend it and understand what he's sharing. But once you really get into it, it's a pretty easy read because it's not very long. And he puts so much information in there. But as I've gone back and I'm rereading it for this project that I'm working on, I have found that there are parts that just I didn't really pay attention to the first time around. And this is what I'm talking about with perception in your state. So if you are a returning listener to this podcast or any of my other content, then you're probably very familiar with the fact that I am always talking about your perception and how your perception can shift depending on the state that you're in. And so when my perception has shifted, I have realized that different parts of books are standing out to me. There's different parts that I'm either understanding differently, I'm noticing them more than maybe I had noticed them before, whereas before I just kind of quickly gone through them. And I'm finding that a lot when I'm rereading Feeling is the Secret. So for our Mindset Motivation podcast for the next 4 weeks, including this one, so 3 weeks after this, we're going to be going through Feeling is the Secret chapter by chapter. So the way that I'm going to structure these is I'm going to read the chapter, but I'm going to have breaks for my commentary, just kind of my understanding, the way that I've seen it. I would love to hear your commentary as well. So if there are things that stand out to you that maybe I don't talk about, questions that you have, or even pieces that you have found sound really true and have resonated with you, I would love to hear about them. So if you're listening, you can definitely shoot me an email. It's unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can definitely leave some notes down in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, your perceptions, what really stood out to you. And if you had a different understanding of a part that I read and the way that it has resonated with you, because each of us, again, have our own perception. We have our own perception and our own life filter. So as I read these parts, you're going to filter what stands out to you through your life experiences, your identity, the state that you're currently in. And mine is being filtered through my life experiences, my state, my identity. And so there's likely going to be areas that are differing. And I think it's great to have conversation around that and kind of understand where other people are coming from, what's standing out to them, what has worked and has not worked. Because really, if you think about it, anything that you're doing with this is about you. You're impressing your subconscious. You're working on your identity. You're focusing on your state, which means it's going to be different for me. There's going to be different things that work for me than what works for you. And that's part of the beauty of this, is that you get to really find out what works for you, what feels good, what you actually enjoy, and what you don't really enjoy doing. Because this should become part of your life, not just something you focus on in a little part of your day to try to get something in the future. You should truly become this person, embody these new ideals and this new way of living. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. The world and all within it is man's conditioned consciousness objectified. Consciousness is the cause as well as the substance of the entire world. So it is to consciousness that we must turn if we would discover the secret of creation. Knowledge of the law of consciousness and the method of operating this law will enable you to accomplish all you desire in life. Armed with a working knowledge of this law, you can build and maintain an ideal world. Consciousness is the one and only reality, not figuratively, but actually. This reality may, for the sake of clarity, be likened unto a stream which is divided into two parts, the conscious and the subconscious. In order to intelligently operate the law of consciousness, it is necessary to understand the relationship between the conscious and the subconscious. The conscious is personal and selective. The subconscious is impersonal and non-selective. The conscious is the realm of effect. The subconscious is the realm of cause. These two aspects are the male and female divisions of consciousness. The conscious is male, the subconscious is female. The conscious generates ideas and impresses these ideas on the subconscious. The subconscious receives the ideas and gives form and expression to them. And this is going to be the first spot that I pause at. So I want to first talk about the fact that if you are a follower, especially a newer follower of Neville Goddard, this idea that consciousness is the true reality can be kind of overwhelming and feel very, very woo-woo and out there. And so when you're first learning if that is an overwhelming feeling or one that you are starting to accept too much blame and fault on yourself for aspects of your life, which I think is not the idea of any of this and not the way that I have ever focused on it, then I recommend that you kind of take a step back. Don't worry about that part and just consider the fact that anything that's going on internally is going to be reflected out into your world. Anything that you're doing internally is what you're going to perceive coming back to you. So when you put those ideas out, they are starting in your conscious mind because you're aware of them and you're being selective. Your conscious mind picks up on the things it wants to focus on. Whether you're really fully aware of it or not, you are making a decision with the thoughts, feelings, emotional reactions, the habits, the routines that you keep. You are continuing to return to something. And the more that you return to it, then in your conscious mind, you are reaffirming this is the person that you are. This is the life that you lead. These are the things that you receive. And so when you look at it like that, your mind is filtering perceptions, like what we've talked about either earlier in this episode or even in some other ones lately. And your perception is what is your truth. And the more that you open your mind to the possibility of other opportunities or other events that could happen, and you start to shift your state and like what you're focusing on, you start to perceive these other other opportunities. There was an episode that I did, and I'll just quickly go over this because I feel like I talk about it a lot, but where people who identified themselves as lucky will actually see opportunities that people who identify themselves as unlucky do not see. It's like their brain filters it out because your brain has said, no, you've told me that you're unlucky. We're not even going to recognize that this opportunity is available. And then the people that identify as lucky are able to see these opportunities because their brain is open to it. Your subconscious is just taking in everything that you're telling it repeatedly, and it is being impressed by the conscious mind. So what you are focusing on is impressing your subconscious. Whether you're aware of it or not, that stuff is getting in. And it's those feelings, the thoughts, the things that you repeatedly return to, whether you realize it or not, you are repeatedly returning to your identity. Every day when you wake up and you go through the exact same routine that you've always had, and you think the same thoughts and you feel the same things and you look in the mirror in the same way and you scroll your phone in the same way and you do all these things, you are reaffirming through your conscious mind to your subconscious that this is the person that you are. So if you want to make these changes to your life, you really have to focus on that and start making changes to what you are consciously paying attention to. If your life is not going the way that you want it to, consciously something needs to change. Your state needs to shift. You need to have a change of identity in order to have a change of life, because you can have anything you want in life. You can live a life that you absolutely love and absolutely adore, but you have to learn how to change your mind first. Okay, back to feeling is the secret. By this law, first conceiving an idea and then impressing the idea conceived on the subconscious, all things evolve out of consciousness. And without this sequence, there is not anything that is made. The conscious impresses the subconscious, while the subconscious expresses all that is impressed upon it. The subconscious does not originate ideas, but accepts as true those which the conscious mind feels to be true, and, in a way only known to itself, objectifies the accepted ideas. Therefore, through this power to imagine and feel and his freedom to choose the idea he will entertain, man has control over creation. Control of the subconscious is accomplished through control of your ideas and feelings. Now, I'm going to pause here. Even though Neville gets a little bit more into this, in my opinion, further in the chapter, and I'll talk about it then as well, control does not mean that you are controlling every external event that happens to you. And releasing that desire for control was a huge shift in my own mindset and created a lot of really good things to happen in my life. Because we're not talking about controlling an external event. We're talking about controlling your thoughts and feelings of where you dwell. You are not going to control every thought that comes into your head. You're not going to control every feeling that you have. We are human. We have emotions. We are just like feeling, like that's what we do, right? We feel, we have emotions, we have things that bubble up inside of us, and we have weird thoughts sometimes that just seem to pop out of nowhere. And you're like, where did that even come from? And why am I thinking that? And that's okay. Like, you don't actually have to be in this weird control creating a mental battlefield. You just have to learn how to discipline your mind to continue to return to what it is that you want to focus on instead of against all the things that you don't. And the more that you return to this by using emotional regulation, emotional intelligence, and also just tools within kind of this woo-woo spiritual side of things to say, no, this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to allow what is happening to me to really bounce me around in my feelings. It's not going to bounce me around in what I'm accepting for myself and how I feel for myself. And the more that you do that, the more that you're actually shifting your state. You're changing those behaviors that you have. You're changing what your conscious mind is impressing on your subconscious mind. The mechanism of creation is hidden in the very depth of the subconscious, the female aspect or womb of creation. The subconscious transcends reason and is independent of induction. It contemplates a feeling as fact existing within itself, and on this assumption proceeds to give expression to it. The creative process begins with an idea, and its cycle runs through its course as a feeling and ends in a volition to act. Ideas are impressed on the subconscious through the medium of feeling. No idea can be impressed on the subconscious until it is felt, but once felt, be it good, bad, or indifferent, it must be expressed. Feeling is the one and only medium through which ideas are conveyed to the subconscious. And I want to stop here too, because this doesn't mean that you have to make these like bubbled up emotional reactions that are fake. This is not to say that you can't essentially fake it until you eventually make it. But if you're trying to force a feeling and that is your focus, is on forcing the feeling, I have found that that actually creates a bit more conflict within myself and some others that I have spoken with than just learning how to more relax into the feeling, focus on the things that you want versus trying to create a fake feeling around it. So in other words, if somebody says, oh, I was able to get this thing by generating a feeling of relief, and you're constantly trying to force a feeling of relief when doing a technique, it's really kind of a conflict. It may take you a little bit longer to get to an actual feeling of this being truth. So when the subconscious is taking on your feelings, it really means like the actual ones that you have, because any kind of conflict is also going to be picked up. And I'm not sharing this so that you make this an overly complicated process. There's emotional regulation tools that you can use. You can calm yourself and repeatedly return to your wish fulfilled, to your desired outcome. But you can also do things to help yourself calm so that you're not opposing yourself repeatedly. And that is things like journaling or a meditation that's not focused on necessarily any kind of end goal, but is just to calm yourself, become centered, and be more present in the moment that you're living. That's why I always recommend also the daily joys, because those are moments of time that you are bringing yourself into the present moment and you're feeling gratitude for the moment that you are living. And so it's like a natural feeling of gratitude that begins to be created within you. And you're just kind of more raising your vibration each time that you're doing that. None of these teachings are supposed to be a battlefield or you feeling bad about yourself or deciding that you're doing everything wrong. It's just a process to learn how to direct your attention in the way that you want to. Okay, back to chapter 1 of Feeling is the Secret. Therefore, the man who does not control his feeling may easily impress the subconscious with undesirable states. By control of feeling is not meant restraint or suppression of your feeling, but rather the disciplining of self to imagine and entertain only such as contributes to your happiness. Control of your feeling is all important to a happy and full life. Never entertain an undesirable feeling, nor think sympathetically about wrong in any shape or form. Do not dwell on the imperfection of yourself or others. To do so is to impress the subconscious with these limitations. What you do not want done unto you, do not feel that it is done unto you or another. This is the whole law of a full and happy life. Everything else is commentary. Every feeling makes a subconscious impression, and unless it is counteracted by a more powerful feeling of an opposite nature, must be expressed. So I'm going to stop here again because I want to talk about a couple things. One, Neville does not actually say you can never have a bad feeling or you can never have a bad thought. He's talking about what you're entertaining. And if you go back to the mental diet, 7-day mental diet, if you've ever read this, it is by Emmett Fox. It's phenomenal, but it is extremely difficult. And what Emmett Fox recommends is that you spend 7 days truly watching your thoughts and never entertain one, never kind of fall off this mental diet that is not aligned to who you want to be. And essentially he says, you're not going to be able to do this for more than a week. It is absolutely exhausting. And he's correct in this. There's actually other lectures that Neville gave a little bit later on in life where he talks about the fact that he still, after 30 years of teaching this stuff to others, has to continually watch his own thoughts and his own feelings that are bubbling up. So it's not as if there's this thing that you can never feel that way, or you can never go, and have this like negative thought that pops up into your head or something that's against what you actually want. And you don't need to suppress the fact that you're having them, but you can make the decision that that's not what you're going to focus on. And the less that you focus on it, the less life that it has. And instead, instead you're going to make a different choice in where you're going to direct your attention, where you're going to direct your focus, the energy that you have. And that's really what this is about. You're just not going to dwell on it. And in order to learn how not to dwell, you really do need to learn some emotional regulation and emotional intelligence. You have to be able to calm yourself. And as much as it may seem like I'm out of my mind, even if you are in a really bad state, you can do that. You can slowly shift things and you can get 1% better each and every day on the things that you're working on. And if you stop worrying about like the delay or how long it's taking you to get something, and instead just focus on every single day, I'm going to get 1% better at this. I'm going to start working on my reactions. I'm going to start learning how to calm myself. I'm going to start doing breathing exercises or add more physical movement to my day. I'm going to do daily joys. I'm going to spend more time outside. You can start to shift your life through these very small, sustainable steps by paying attention to the way that you behave and not opposing the things that you do in your moments of technique. So if you spend a meditation thinking about how it would feel to be absolutely loved and have the career that you want, but then you wake up or you come back to, and when you're living your life, you're completely opposing that, as he says, you are going to kind of cancel that out. It goes both ways. So you can cancel out the really good states that you're trying to shift into, but you can also cancel out the bad ones that you're stuck in. Neville goes on to write, "The dominant of two feelings is the one expressed. I am healthy is a stronger feeling than I will be healthy. To feel I will be is to confess I am not. I am is stronger than I am not. What you feel you are always dominates what you feel you would like to be. Therefore, to be realized, the wish must be felt as a state that is rather than a state that is not." So in other words, he's saying what you can generate feelings for now, that you are something, is going to actually manifest in your life, right? So what you feel you are always dominates what you feel you would like to be. So my understanding, and the best way for me to explain this, is that the thoughts that you constantly have on a specific topic is actually what you feel that you are. So if you are currently struggling with not being treated a way that you want to be treated, not getting the love, the attention, the desire, the job, the respect, whatever it is that you're looking for in life, and you're saying, I am not that now, but I'm going to be. I'm going to keep focusing on these feelings until it generates a external event that allows me to actually feel that way. That's a little bit of a cycle that I think a lot of people get caught in. And I know that I did as well. We're trying to learn how to generate the feeling now, even if it's an expectation that this generation of the feeling now, feeling loved, desired, focused on, wealthy, successful, whatever it is going to eventually create this external thing that kind of confirms how I feel. That's different than waiting for the external event to allow you to feel a certain way. I think this is actually one of the things that people get the most caught up in Neville Goddard's teachings, is that a lot of people say, well, I can expect that something's going to come and it'll still come to me. And that is not what I believe he's saying. He's just saying that you can't have the expectation that until you have this external event create a feeling for you, you can't be that thing. Whereas you can actually generate the feelings within you first and then see them mirrored back to you. So I'm going to go back to the chapter again. Sensation precedes manifestation and is the foundation upon which all manifestation rests. Be careful of your moods and feelings, for there is an unbroken connection between your feelings and your invisible world. Your body is an emotional filter and bears the unmistakable marks of your prevalent emotions. Emotional disturbances, especially suppressed emotions, are the causes of all disease. To feel intensely about a wrong without voicing or expressing that feeling is the beginning of disease in both body and environment. Do not entertain the feeling of regret or failure, for frustration or detachment from your objective results in disease. Think feelingly only of the state you desire to realize. Feeling the reality of the state sought and living and acting on that conviction is the way of all seeming miracles. All changes of expression are brought about through a change of feeling. A change of feeling is a change of destiny. All creation occurs in the domain of the subconscious. What you must acquire then is a reflective control of the operation of the subconscious. That is, control of your ideas and feelings. And again, let's remind everybody, this does not mean that you are not allowed to have any kind of quote unquote negative or undesirable thought or feeling. It means the areas that you're going to continually dwell. Where you place your attention is where you are placing your vibration and what is going to continue to have life. Back to his chapter. Chance or accident is not responsible for the things that happen to you, nor is predestined fate the author of your fortune or misfortune. Your subconscious impressions determine the conditions of your world. The subconscious is not selective. It is impersonal and no respecter of persons. The subconscious is not concerned with the truth or falsity of your feeling. It always accepts as true that which you feel to be true. Feeling is the ascent of the subconscious to the truth of that which is declared to be true. Because of this quality of the subconscious, there is nothing impossible to man. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and feel as true, the subconscious can and must objectify. Your feelings create the pattern from which your world is fashioned, and a change of feeling is a change of pattern. The subconscious never fails to express that which has been impressed upon it. The moment it receives an impression, it begins to work out the ways of its expression. It accepts the feelings impressed upon it, your feeling, as a fact existing within itself, and immediately sets about to produce in the outer or objective world the exact likeness of that feeling. The subconscious never alters the accepted beliefs of man. It outpictures them to the last detail, whether or not they are beneficial. To impress the subconscious with a desirable state, you must assume the feeling that would be yours had you already realized your wish. In defining your objective, you must be concerned only with the objective itself. The manner of expression or the difficulties involved are not to be considered with you. To think feelingly on any state that impresses on the subconscious. Therefore, if you dwell on difficulties, barriers, or delay, the subconscious, by its own very non-selective nature, accepts the feelings of difficulties and obstacles as your request and proceeds to produce them in your outer world. So that's why Neville's always saying, focus on the end. You choose what your desired outcome is, and there's a whole process for you to figure out what actually is it that you want. And then you just focus on that end. But that does not mean that you are currently living a life as if you're in that end. But you are externally doing this. But you are internally returning to that feeling. You are internally returning to the desired state that you wish to impress on your subconscious. And while you can make small routine and habit changes that are more aligned with that person, I'm not talking about dramatically doing things that are completely outside of what you would externally be doing right now. You'll notice the shift in the actions that follow along with that shift naturally will come on their own, and you don't have to focus on that. And for a very extreme example, but it would be like if you wanted to be married and have a healthy relationship and a child, you wouldn't take a baby doll and then take the baby doll everywhere with you and tell everyone that that is your child. That is what people are talking about when they're saying this is absolute delusion and you are taking it too far, this act as if. You're not creating external happenings for yourself to get whatever you're trying to bring into your life. You are working internally on the state that you feel, what you're impressing on your subconscious, not externally forcing conditions so that you can have something in the future. Also needing that event to happen in the future for you to feel the thing internally first. It's going to start with you, not with whatever is going on around you. The subconscious is the womb of creation. It receives the idea unto itself through the feelings of man. It never changes the idea received, but it always gives it form. Hence, the subconscious outpictures the idea in the image and likeness of the feeling received. To feel a state as hopeless or impossible is to impress the subconscious with the idea of failure. Although the subconscious faithfully serves man, it must not be inferred that the relationship is that of a servant to a master. The ancient prophets called it the slave and servant of man. St. Paul personified it as a woman and said the woman should be subject to the man in everything. The subconscious does serve man and faithfully gives form to his feelings. However, the subconscious has a distinct distaste for compulsion and responds to persuasion rather than to command. Consequently, it resembles the beloved wife more than the servant. The husband is the head of the wife may not be true of man and woman in their earthly relationships, but it is true of the conscious and the subconscious, or the male and female aspects of consciousness. The mystery to which Paul referred when he wrote, "This is a great mystery. He that loveth his wife loveth himself, and they two shall be one flesh," is simply the mystery of consciousness. Consciousness is really one and undivided, but for creation's sake it appears to be divided into two. The subconscious, which is objective, or male aspect, truly is the head and dominates the subconscious, subjective, or female aspect. However, this leadership is not of the tyrant, but of the lover. By assuming the feeling that would be yours were you already in possession of your objective, the subconscious is moved to build the exact likeness of your assumption. Your desires are not subconsciously accepted until you assume the feeling of their reality. For only through feeling is an idea subconsciously accepted, and only through this subconscious acceptance is it ever expressed. It is easier to ascribe your feelings to events in the world than to admit that the conditions of your world reflect your feeling. However, it is internally true that the outside mirrors the inside. As within, so without. As above, so below. As below, so above. As within, so without. So without, so within. A man can receive nothing until it is given to him from heaven, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. Nothing comes from without. All things come from within, from the subconscious. It is impossible for you to see other than the contents of your consciousness. Your world in its every detail is your consciousness objectified. Objective states bear witness of subconscious impressions. A change of impression results in a change of expression. The subconscious accepts as true that which you feel as true, and because creation is the result of subconscious impressions, you, by your feeling, determine creation. You are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you do not see it. To seek on the outside for that which you do not feel you are is to seek in vain, for we never find that which we want. We only find that which we are. In short, you express and have given only that which you are conscious of being or possessing. To him that hath is given. Denying the evidence of your senses and appropriate the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the way to the realization of your desire. Mastery of self-control of your thoughts and feelings is your highest achievement. However, until perfect self-control is contained, so that in spite of appearances, you feel all that you want to feel, use sleep and prayer to aid you in realizing your desired states. These are the two gateways into the subconscious. And that's the end of the chapter. And I want to call this part out because what Neville is saying is that, yes, when you get to absolute mastery, essentially perfection of only seeing, hearing, and accepting that which you want to be true and focusing only on the things that you want to focus, that is the absolute highest achievement, and you'll create the life that you could never imagine. But again, back to the 7-day mental diet, that type of mastery is extremely difficult. I don't know that anybody essentially has ever reached that. I know that the teachers that I read talk about having to repeatedly work on their own mindset and how difficult that it is, because we're human, right? And we do feel things, and we do have emotions, and we do have physical things that happen to us that create feelings that are not necessarily the feelings that we want to have. And that's okay. You can actually feel those things. You can move forward through those things. So until you actually obtain this self-control, this perfect self-control, which I don't think is going to come from anybody because we're all human, then you can use these other tools to consistently return to that state of your wish fulfilled. In time, the more that you return to it, the more it becomes your dominant state. And that's why I'm always promoting that you don't do things during the day that are in direct opposition of the way that you want to feel. One of my best examples is that if you want to be loved by someone and feel you're in a healthy, great relationship with them, you would not consistently be checking their Instagram to see what they're up to or checking their Snapchat to see if you've been unblocked. You need to step away from that that and focus on yourself. And on that note, if you are continually finding yourself in the cycle of an extremely unhealthy relationship because you feel that if you just continue to persist in it, which unfortunately I think a lot of people online continue to promote, then I'm going to recommend that you completely cut that off and start to focus only on your internal feelings of being loved. Don't worry about this person. You need to heal. You need to focus on yourself. You need to find the things that uplift your own self-worth, make you feel good, and you focus on yourself, not on this person that you have continued to find yourself in a very unhealthy cycle with. And again, my disclaimer at the end of this is that I am not a licensed therapist. If you are finding yourself in a cycle that is either emotionally or physically abusive, please reach out for help in your local area and get yourself out of that relationship and start healing on your relationship with yourself instead. I hope that you found this episode amazing. I'm going to talk on Wednesday a bit more about 1% better and how you can actually use that paired with these teachings with a little bit more actionable steps than what we talked about today. But I hope that you have an absolutely beautiful week. Next week, I will be going over chapter 2 of Feeling is the Secret. And I would also like to know if you like this, where I'm reading the full chapter of the book and kind of going through it. I can do this with other of Neville Goddard's books, especially. So if you like that, let me know. And I would love to hear from you if you have any other questions as well. So it's unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com. Have a beautiful week, and I will be back on Wednesday. Thank you so much again for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely please share it out with your network. That is truly one of the best compliments that you can give me. And if you have a moment, if you could please rate and review the episode, that definitely helps me get out to more people.